When you compare the Obama administration with the Biden administration, who was the most successful at bringing together great talent?
Wow, great question. You're asking me to pick between presidents now.
Just the talent, just the talent.
And I think it was different. I think that one of the things that President Obama did that was remarkable, and it was the first time I think it was done at scale, was bring a bunch of talented people who had worked in technology into government for the first time. And it was early enough in the 21st century that we didn't know well enough the role that technology was going to play over the next several decades. But doing that at that moment was incredibly helpful to starting government thinking about how to utilize technology better throughout the entire enterprise.
So let's do another one. First Trump administration, second Trump administration. Which aggregation of talent gives you the most comfort?
I think that's an easy one. In terms of the first Trump administration, included people who had experience, brought a bunch of credibility to the field, and were interested in helping to make the government work in ways that help the people. And while there are people in the second Trump administration who also are talented, I think the difference is that ultimately the benefit of government is how do you invest in not only talent at the top, but talent throughout the organization. Mm-hmm. Because I think it is true that ultimately really good, talented leaders, their key has to be to attract other talented leaders. And what we're seeing now is that people in the federal government who work there, who've worked there for decades, who are really talented, they're leaving. They're trying to go to the private sector. They're retiring because they don't feel like the government is investing in them or investing in the American people. That's what concerns me the most at the moment, is that the people who have dedicated their lives to doing this important work are deciding to step away, which when you lose really good human capital, it's hard to run any business, including the federal government.
My 72-year-old sister will kill me if I don't ask you this question. Is her Social Security and retirement safe?
It is one of the bedrock principles of government that we want to make sure that everyone gets access to their Social Security and Medicare. The thing that I worry about is if she has a problem, she changes her address or something happens where she needs to contact the Social Security Administration, that's harder to do today than at any point, because so many of the people who used to work there no longer do because they were let go. They've closed down field offices. You can't necessarily rely on the technology. So while the money might be there, getting access to it is harder for people who have played by the rules their whole life and deserve it than it should be. And I do worry that ultimately, while it's safe for her, I worry about its safety for your grandchild, or even for me, frankly, in light of the fact that we continue to give away tax cuts rather than investing in.
We've got nursing homes shutting down.
Yeah. It is at a moment when the country's getting older.
Yeah,
we're having fewer nursing homes.
We have the largest group of baby boomers in that age group that we have ever had in the history of this country, and less resources to take care of them in their senior years, including veterans. What quick turnaround do we need in order to make it safe to get old?
Yeah, I think you're right that the government needs to make investments in this place. But I also think that as a community, this is a place where, frankly, owning these types of facilities, investing in these facilities, give you the ability to do two things. One, do well by a community that needs them, but also the economics on this could also be a place where more Black and brown people investing in these things could be helpful. But
how do you get funded?
I think that's the key reason why you need the CDFI network and you need other networks to be able to get access to the funding you need. But who's going to pay the bill is also the question. And the people who have traditionally paid the bill has been the federal government, because we've built a system in which we pay taxes and Americans work throughout their lives and they pay into Social Security and into these programs, expecting that these programs will be there to take care of them over time. But if there isn't a nursing home to go to, no matter how much money we have in the system, it's not going to work. So I do think that we're in a place where we've made a set of choices, especially in the latest legislation, that are going to lead to tax cuts for people who may not need them, but over time is going to degrade the care for the people who need it most.
Okay, I'm gonna end this with a funny. When I first met President Obama, he was Senator Obama, and after we had a meeting together, he gave me his number, and I put it in my phone, but I didn't think it was a real number. When he was running for president, just out of a whim, I called the number. He answered the phone. It scared me so bad. I couldn't think of nothing to say. I just started stuttering on the phone. I could not believe that he actually answered the phone. I'm sure it doesn't work now. But at the time, he was that hands-on. Is that a good description of his propensity to be hands-on? And what other presidents have we had that were hands-off? And what are the pros and cons of either way?
That is such a great story. You should try that number again. It might be the same number. But I do think so. And I think the key thing is for any president, they run a country that is diverse and has a bunch of challenges and opportunities. And the thing that I found with the two that I've worked with is when there is a crisis, when there is a challenge, they roll up their sleeves and they dive deep into it in a way where, to go back to the fire analogy, human instinct is to run away from fires. Mm-hmm. The thing that I found about great leaders of any party is they run towards the fire, because the only way to get past the smoke and to know what's happening is actually to head towards the fire. And that's the thing that impressed me most about President Obama during the financial crisis. It's something that I saw with President Biden during the pandemic in terms of running towards the fire. Leaders are humans, so they have their strengths and they have their flaws. But ultimately, I think the thing that I respected most, the thing I learned most from the President Obama was about the importance of both running towards fires, but also demonstrating empathy. Empathy not just to the American people when you're speaking to them, but empathy to your staff, to the people who you work with. And it's an important lesson that I carry with me to this day. And I hope you try that phone number again.
I'll let you know if it works. I have a feeling that you and him get in a car and pick up some hamburgers and French fries and things like that. I'm a little bit jealous.
He is way too healthy to eat a hamburger and French fries, but he's definitely, the thing that I can say about the president is anytime I have interacted with him, I have learned something because he is so thoughtful. And that's true every time I get to hang out with you. That's why I keep doing it. Right. And I appreciate you hosting these types of conversations, because the thing you said in the beginning is so true, that it is so hard to get, I wouldn't even say hard to get information. It's hard to get trusted information.
Right.
And I appreciate the fact that you're giving this opportunity for the people who listen to you and trust you to hear from other people.
Chapter number 7, Trust in America. Where do you go when you want accurate news?
So for me, the thing that I try and do, because it is really hard to find accurate news, is I deal in quantity. So I read 5 newspapers in the morning. Then I also do a bunch of aggregators throughout the day to understand. And part of what I'm doing in my mind is comparing the differences on the same story. Mm-hmm. So there's a story in the New York Times about tariffs. There's one also in the Washington Post. I'm looking at what the Twitter feed sees, trying to figure out what the differences are, and then pressing into where did that difference come from? What's going on? So one of the things that Larry always said when I worked for him, Larry Fink, was be a student of the market. And I think I'm a student of information, because ultimately information is power. But most Americans don't have the time, nor should they have to read 5 newspapers or go through feeds. They should be able to find accurate sources of information. And what I found in my job at the Treasury Department, because one of the challenges I had at Treasury was the people who often needed the things we did most didn't take advantage of it because, frankly, they didn't trust the federal government.
Where should we be? We can't trust the federal government as the way we used to. Where should we be putting our 401ks, our investments at this point that are going to be safest for our longevity, especially those of us who are close to needing it?
Yeah, and I'm not I'm not going to give professional investment advice, but I
Yeah,
do think
but you can hit around a little bit.
I do think that the thing that we've seen over time is that diversified portfolios that charge very low fees is the best way to invest your money over time.